Hi everyone, my name is Sam and welcome to today's video and welcome to the Books of the Restoration channel. I just read this book, In the Hands of the Lord, The Life of Dallin H. Oakes by Richard E. Turley. And I'm still trying to figure out this channel and how I want to talk about these books. So I'll probably do a few videos about this book. But in today's video, I want to talk about one aspect of President Oakes' life that is displayed in this book that I found very interesting, and in the course of telling this, I'll mention a few stories that I hadn't heard before about President Oakes and how he lived his life. So one of the overarching themes of President Oakes' life is many times throughout his life, early on in his career, and as he progressed in his career, he felt like the Lord was preparing him for some future service. And so every time a potential career change came about, he would approach his Father in heaven in prayer and through fasting and going to the temple, seeking guidance about what he should do and how he could best use the skills he had been blessed with. So the first story I want to talk about that shows this principle in action in President Oakes' life is early on in his career. He was a lawyer, and only a few years out of school, he was working for a law firm in Chicago, one of the bigger law firms. And he was on a fast track to partnership. They already told him they want to make him a partner. They're going to prepare him so he could eventually become a part owner in this large, lucrative law firm. And at times he started feeling uneasy, and he talked about how he didn't get that much thrill of working with contracts, trying to, between customer X and customer Y and trying to figure out who gets the most cash. But he said in his journal that he got more of a thrill out of helping people. And anyways, this kind of led him to maybe pursuing some other opportunities. And the University of Chicago had reached out to him about being a professor. And he didn't think it was a good idea initially because he was so young in his career. He didn't have that much legal experience. But he fasted and he prayed, and he felt like he should leave the law firm and go be a professor. And he said right then, very early on, I felt like the Lord was preparing me for other things. And it was interesting, when he quit the law firm, they were stunned. They couldn't believe this smart person, this hardworking individual who they pretty much told, you will have this grand life of a partnership in a large legal firm in a huge city in the United States. They couldn't believe he would just give that away when it seemed to be handed to him. They were stunned at his decision. But President Oakes followed the inspiration from the Lord and ended up resigning and going to the school. And the second story I want to share is a few years later. He's still at the University of Chicago working for the law school, and he is a dean, and he's asked to become the president of Brigham Young University in Provo, Utah. And this story is interesting because Elder Neal A. Maxwell, who was on the search committee for the next president of BYU, said that he wasn't among the first 25 candidates. They had a list, and no one on the search committee knew who Dallin H. Oakes was. But the Lord did. And even though no one knew him, the Lord knew that he needed to be the president, and so he inspired the search committee to find him, and when they interviewed him, they knew he was going to be the next president. And this is just another example, I think, about this principle, because we too, I think, have life missions and things we're supposed to do, and if we let the Lord prepare us, He'll open ways and doors for us. And a search committee of talented people who knew a lot of people, but they didn't know Dallin H. Oakes, who was the right person for the job, but the Lord did. And so I think that's just another part of this principle, that He will open doors for us and get us to where we need to be. All right, the next story is just after his BYU tenure as president. He decides to join the Utah Supreme Court. And this was kind of a big decision. He had done some great things, and he didn't know what was next, but he continued to prepare himself, and he continued to feel like the Lord was preparing him for something that he needed to do. And so before he joined the Utah Supreme Court, he went to the temple, and after an endowment session, as he was sitting in the celestial room, he said he had this impression, this prompting these thoughts come into his mind that said, "Go to the court and I will call you from there." And with that, he didn't know who he was going to get called to, but he just knew that the next step he should take is with the Utah Supreme Court. And so he wasn't there very long, and he got called to become an apostle. And he said, although this calling came as a complete surprise to me, I have felt not a moment's hesitancy about its divine origin, or the fact that it is the answer to my prayers for all my adult life, that the Lord would reveal to me in due time how he would have me serve to use the unique experiences with which he has blessed me. I desire to be of use to his servants and to be an instrument in his hands. And so that was the beginning of President Oaks' life as an apostle. Okay, I have two more stories for you. The first one was kind of interesting. I didn't know this story, and so I wanted to share it. But in 2002, so at this point, President Oaks had been an apostle for 2 decades, and President Hinckley, the prophet at the time in 2002, one day during a meeting with the First Presidency and the Quorum of the 12 Apostles, he said, I've been wanting to do this for a while, but I'm going to send 2 of you, 2 apostles, to go work in the field. And I'm going to send one of you to Chile, and I'm going to send the other to the Philippines. And eventually, a few days later, President Oaks got a call from President Hinckley and met with him and was invited to go to the Philippines to be the area president there. And this hadn't been done for 50 years where an apostle was living overseas. And it ended up being a 2-year call as he was in the Philippines, looking over that area. And one of the reasons why the Philippines was chosen is it was a high growth area for the church. And so he saw firsthand some of the problems that come with growth, and he had to deal with those problems for 2 years. And it's just another case of the Lord preparing President Oaks even while he was an apostle. And the final thing I want to share quickly is when President Oaks was called to be the first counselor in the first presidency. And I hadn't heard this story either, but after the death of President Thomas S. Monson, as President Nelson was getting ready to reorganize the first presidency, he broke with tradition, and what he did is he individually met with every apostle, and he asked them who they thought would be a worthy counselor in the first presidency. And he met with every apostle, and during those interviews, he knew and realized that President Oaks, Dallin H. Oaks, should be his first counselor. And another interesting story that President Nelson said, and I might get some of these details wrong, but I believe it was Spencer W. Kimball who was talking to President Nelson at one time, decades ago. And President Kimball became the president of the church after Harold B. Lee died. And he was the president of the Quorum of the 12 at the time. And so he immediately went from the Quorum of the 12 to becoming the prophet. And he said and told President Nelson how hard that was because he hadn't served in the first presidency. And so it was a big learning curve for him. And so President Nelson, and part of the reason why President Oaks was called was because Dallin H. Oaks is next in line in the succession. And he felt like for the good of the church, President Oaks should get that experience in the first presidency. And obviously, I don't know whom the Lord will call next after Russell M. Nelson as prophet. But President Nelson is always thinking of the church and of President Oaks here, and helping him gain more experience for even more that President Oaks will do. And so I just wanted to share a few of these thoughts because I think President Oaks is a great example of someone who, as DNC4 says, has desires to serve God, and he's called to the work. And he let the Lord tutor him throughout his life. And in every instance, every big decision, he made that decision with the Lord's help and inspiration. And so he is a big inspiration for me. I loved reading about him. Highly skilled and driven, ambitious, and just an amazing overall man who I look up to. And I really liked that book. So if you want to learn more about him and see this principle in action, and there was many more stories I could have shared, but those were just a few, go check out that book, In the Hands of the Lord. And thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.